All right, everybody. Welcome to another exciting time. And I'm not talking about football. We have open enrollment ahead of us. And that means joys for all of you, right? We appreciate you coming and participating in the benefits specialist meeting today. Let's face it, what we have ahead of us is a lot of work. This is a busy time of year, but remember, Employees Group Insurance is here for you. We do deal with some fairly difficult situations and frustrated people during open enrollment. When you need help, be sure to either contact us or send those individuals to us. We will help you out with that. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn the first part of the meeting over to Karen, and she'll get us started with some updates and training. Karen?
Here we go again. My goodness. If I was showing football, it would be a little bit more exciting, right? So we do have some updates as far as our new portal system. I don't want it up here. Is that better? You hear me in the back? Oh, we could do a Tony Robbins and okay. So I'm just going to go over some information. Some of it is reminders, as we always do for open enrollment, just because even though we've been through it a number of times, it's still been a whole year since we did it. So reminders, updates on the portal, and then just some additional information. So first thing, open enrollment. I say this every year because it's important to me that employees understand that open enrollment is really only health and preventive dental. And the reason that that's important is that a lot of people understand open enrollment, or I think like the feds use open season to mean guarantee issue. It's a la carte, you can order what you want, and that's just not true. Open enrollment is definitely health and preventive dental only, where it's a guarantee coverage. Optional dental, of course, there's the 3-year waiting period, and employees can wait more than 3 years because they can only make these changes when it coincides with open enrollment that they've met the 3 years. We wanted to throw an extra scenario up here though for you to keep in mind that even though the employee may have met the 3 years for optional dental, in our example, the employee was hired in 2012, did not take optional dental, and then in 2017 got married. And our program does allow the employee to add a benefit they had not previously had when they add a new qualified dependent. So they could have added optional dental with the marriage. Now, because the employee can't be on dental and the spouse not, that's why in this particular scenario, if they tried to fill out for optional dental during open enrollment in 18, we're going to deny it because it's now not been 3 years. So just keep that in mind. And that's why we send out the denial letters to employees explaining why it is that they can't have something. So just be aware of that. However, with the vision, because that's not tied to the dependent, if the same scenario had occurred, we would let the employee have vision because they would have met the 2-year wait. The spouse would be denied. So just adding an additional scenario to what seems like an otherwise ironclad rule. So reminder, deadline's November 30th. This year it happens to fall on a Friday, so anything that needs to be submitted online in the portal or paper to your office needs to be date stamped or submitted by November 30th. And again, please don't hold applications. We have over 18,000 members, and so the portal's making a huge impact, which is great, but we just don't want to hold anything. There's a lot of, as you guys know in your world, there's a lot of payroll to do, so just because we got the paper, there's still a lot more work to do behind that. And please holler or raise your hand. I'll start out really fast and then I'll get into a groove. But please interrupt me if you have questions. 2019 Flex Benefit Election Form, the blue Flex form for state employees, this is the last year we're going to do it. So see, I see clapping. The meeting yesterday, people were woohooing. So this is the last year for the blue flex forms, and I know employees have become trained to look for that blue flex form, but because the portal was such a success last year, we will compensate next fall and send out extra emails to try to compensate for the fact they're like, oh, where's my blue flex form? To make sure that we are reminding them multiple times. The blue flex form that we're sending out also says on it that it's the last year that they'll get it. We will always accept paper. So the white regular 2019 flex form will be out on the website, and folks who want to use paper can for sure use that, but we're just not going to provide a printed one out of SAO next year. So what we're going to suggest is that we will compile an email that you can use if you choose to. We're suggesting you keep the blue forms once you get them. We'll have them out next week to you. You keep them in your office, send out an email, which we can provide, that explains that this one is the last year for flex forms. Attach the PDF instructions for how to do your flex online, and that if the employee really wants their blue flex form, they simply need to contact you and you can get it out to them. But make them contact you to get it in hopes that we can get folks to kind of get moved over to the portal. So, because next year there just won't be a blue form. So if you kind of hold them, hopefully you can get folks trained to it. We are not changing the annual flex. It's still going to be $2,600 for 2019. If you see something on the IRS that shows that it like got bumped up $50, that may be the case, but for group insurance, we typically don't up it until it's at least a $100 increment. So it'll be $2,600 for next year. I don't know how many of you, stalk our website, but all the videos have been updated, all the benefit videos. A little bit overdue, but the information is current and correct. Matt was kind enough to help us with that and make them extra smurfy snazzy. So if you use those for your onboarding, if you have employees during open enrollment that aren't quite sure how the benefits work, that's a good place to send them so that they can check out the videos. You've heard me say a number of times the reason for those videos or the purpose, albeit short, is enough information to either know what questions they need to ask or informative enough that they know what benefits they want to pick. So this was a big deal. So yay, they're out there. The next thing is the leave acknowledgement form. This is a new form that we've made, and it's a tool. It's not mandatory. We're going to, after the meeting is over today, I'll provide it to everybody on the contact list. Some agencies are so large that you don't always come in contact with your employee. It may be a supervisor in another facility. We get people who call and are really perturbed with us when we send out a less than 80 letter that says they owe $1,200 or $1,800 or $250 because they don't realize that they have any employee responsibility while they're out. So this form is meant to be a tool to educate the employee so that they do know up front that they will be responsible for potentially a portion, and to kind of protect the agency so they can't come back and say, Susan didn't tell me that I was going to owe anything. I got hurt by workers' comp. This isn't my fault. Well, all those things may be true, but it doesn't relinquish the employee from having a responsibility. So what this goes over is basically all the different leave types verbatim as they are on our less than 80 letter, so it explains each leave type. On the back of the form are these 3 acknowledgement statements, so I blew them up just so you can see them. I acknowledge upon my return from leave, I may be required to fill out new active employee applications to begin active coverage if my coverage had been canceled while out. I must do this within 60 days of obtaining 80 hours, and coverage would be effective the first of the month following receipt of my apps. Now, if we cancel an employee while they're on leave, we do send them a cancellation letter, which also tells them that they have to re-enroll upon their return, so that you guys aren't stuck being the complete hand holder where, so-and-so didn't tell me I needed to re-enroll. So you can get them on the less than 80 letter that we send out, but then also on the front end, as you have somebody, when possible, that you can give them this information up front. And they're acknowledging that they know they're going to be responsible. Second one, I acknowledge failure to pay any premiums due by the date specified will result in retro termination of benefits. I will tell you that what we do now for leave without pay, because of course they owe so much, and lots of people don't pay it, and then we've potentially been open for the liability of prescriptions and medical claims could be in the thousands. For leave without pay people, we do shut them off at the end of the month in which they're paid through, and then we send them the letter. Provided payment comes in by the date, then we extend their insurance. On FMLA and workers' comp, we don't do that. We just send them the letter, because their portion is usually 15%, not 100%. But this lets them know that if they don't pay it, it'll be terminated. And I know you can read, but last one, I acknowledge if I have questions regarding any premiums owed while on leave, I can contact Employees Group Insurance. If the colleges, our school district up in Casper, if they want to use these, we can certainly add the HR contact information at the bottom of that, because they can call here for the policy, but since the colleges and the school district handle that themselves and we handle state payroll, this as it stands today would be useful for state agencies. We do ask that if you utilize this tool that you go ahead and provide us a copy of it. Obviously you'll have it in their files, but if they call up and they're just hot to trot that they don't owe this, or they're angry, or we canceled them because they failed to make payment, We have this on file that shows their agency did give them information that they would be responsible for a portion of the premium, and that they did know that failure to pay it would result in termination. It would just make it easier for us not to have any kind of a disagreement with them, but just be like, yeah, negative ghostwriter, it looks like you did know, or that you were given the information up front. So that's the leave acknowledgement form. Any questions on that? Once I send it out, if you do use it, I mean, hey, rip it up, not rip it up literally. If you have feedback, criticism, improvements, anything you want to do with it, just reach out, let me know. Divorce. Dun, dun, dun. Divorce means a spouse and stepchild, if there are any, are not eligible for insurance, period. They are not eligible. They cannot have it. Please do not tell somebody that they can't do it because it's past the 60 days. That's like suggesting that a 26-year-old can stay on because it's past the 60 days. In that instance, we're able to track our system and pull a birthday report, and we drop those kids 30 days before. We process it 30 days before, but we cancel them the end of the month automatically. These divorces we don't know about, but that qualifying event date doesn't apply. The employee knows they got divorced. I just put a pause there for they know they got divorced. We are no longer going to refund 36 months of premium for their failure to notify us of a divorce. We are going to start implementing a 6-month refund. And we're going to start doing that as of January 1st. So if you get somebody, we're really we pay a lot of close attention to the applications we get, both online and on paper. If we get somebody who's dropping their spouse and it's marked single, we're going to inquire, because there's a good chance. We've had, last year especially, we had a slew of them where the employee gave us the information, or HR gave us the information, oh, they got divorced last summer. They cannot be on the plan. They can't. And so this is meant to be a deterrent, that the refund will go from 36 months to 6 months. And if they're doing it, whether they're doing it on purpose or not, it's still fraud. I mean, this isn't just some mamby-pamby insurance rule. This is fraud. You cannot be on the plan. You are not eligible. So I just want to put that out there so that as you're communicating with employees, this is important and serious. You can't keep your ex-spouse on the plan. Okay, some reminders. Termination, please try to make sure the address is updated when you do your termination notices. I get that we have the same problem you guys do. We have people who tell you about an address change and then fail to tell us. Or they tell us and they fail to tell you. So what happens is that we will get a call from an employee 3 weeks ago to change their address. We do it, and then the term notice comes from you with the old address. We change the address back, not knowing that somebody else in the office took the phone call 3 weeks ago, and then when we send out their COBRA, it comes back because it's a no-good address. So just a reminder, there's only so much you guys can do if you're aware of it, but what you've got is try to be accurate. We do need you to still indicate if the employee is eligible for retiree. It doesn't matter that they're not retiring. A lot of people quit and go on to other jobs, but if they qualify as a retiree with us, we want to make sure we're making that offer. Once 31 days from their active coverage comes and goes, they are out of luck. No, do not pass go, do not collect $200. So please write down whether or not you know that they qualify. Now, some employees, you may not know that they used to work at L-Trip for 6 years, and then they came to you for the last 6 years, and they're 52, so you know that that's a bad example. You would know that it's over 4 years with you, but you get me. If you've got 1 year with an employee, you don't know where the heck they've been unless you do. And if they have more than 4 years of service and are over 50 years of age, they qualify. So just be aware of it. Application selection, please counsel your employees only to mark on the applications what they're going to change. Every year on paper applications, we still get people who they'll mark their deductible change, which is really all they mean to do. They don't remember which dental they have, so they mark preventive only, and then they mark employee life, and that's it. Now, I get that at the bottom of the application is the withdraw section. So even though they might not have filled out the bottom of the form for withdraw, the fact of the matter is they've chosen preventive. So if it gets dropped, we can't spend the man hours calling people going, are you really sure you wanted to drop optional? You might be upset in 6 months when you need a crown. So just be aware that if they're only changing their deductible, only mark that and leave the rest of the app alone. Don't even change anything unless you're changing it, just to prevent that scenario. Missing information on forms, just again, eyeball the form, rear view mirror technique, make sure that it's completely filled out. It causes unnecessary holding of applications. We have to harass you or the employee, call you or call the employee. And then last, disability determination. you can have an employee that in your files you have an application, say, specifically for disability, but all the benefits. If you're going to fill out the employer section of a short or long-term disability claim, Standard is going to take you, the employer statement, as truth. And so we had a situation recently where somebody, the employer agency, filled out the disability, they were getting payment. Well, this guy's not been paying for it. Turns out he had an application in their files that we never received. We were able to mitigate the problem and remedy it. But if you look in the portal, what we have is what they have. So if there's a discrepancy, we need to find it right away. But please be sure that you're using the portal, especially for the purpose of disability, to make sure that we really do have them enrolled. So, alrighty, adding new employees. So we're back on the HR portal now. We're going to go ahead and remove the employee email. It's still there right now. It's not a required field anymore, but we've got some situations where HR will like put in the wild.gov, which of course works just fine, but then we have an employee that may want to use their personal home Gmail account. Well, now they have to call us so we can change it so they can register with that. Or I think a lot of employees are just like, oh, okay, I'll use my wild.gov. So because it's not required, if it's blank and Bob goes out to register for the portal, so long as he's using one of the 4 means that allow you to get into the system, it will default and input his email into the email contact. So we're just not even going to have you put it in. So that's at least one little tiny thing you don't have to enter. So we're going to remove that. Be sure Social Security number is correct. I know all of you, just like all of us, are in the middle of doing something, and if it isn't squirreled 3 different ways, it's 8 different ways of what you're doing at the same time or get interrupted. So if you at any point get interrupted and you're not sure if you were done putting Sally into the portal, try to pull her up by name or social and see if she's already in there. We are getting duplicates where people are being entered more than once. It's not a big deal, but it just would be easier if you just checked if you're not 100% sure. The new hire checklist, please submit the checklist at the time of doing, this is so small looking here, at the same time as using the employee portal. When we first established this whole portal and the process, the idea behind it was that you would do your onboarding, enter them in, now sometimes you have one person at your desk at a time that you're onboarding. Some agencies have a class of 12 as they're doing an onboarding class. But the idea was you would do your onboarding, get them added to the system, send us the checklist, and be done. There are some agencies that are holding the checklist to make sure that Bob's either turning in papers or they're monitoring the portal to see if Bob went onto the portal and did enrollment. Well, we're now going to sit on that enrollment because we won't process anything without the new hire checklist. And if Bob never comes back, that's on Bob. That's why the checklist is required at this point. He signed it, you signed it, he's acknowledging he's aware of all the rules and regulations on how to get his benefits. So if you have issues with that or have feedback or want to talk about the logistics of your situation and how you're having difficulty getting it in quicker, or we're constantly saying, hey, where's the checklist, give me a call and we can talk about what the situation is and see if we can come up with a way to make it a little bit better. Make sure you're using the most recent form. We've made a couple of changes to it, and from here through the end of the year, if we get an old new hire checklist, we will still accept it and we'll email you the new one, and then email you the new one, and then email you the new one. Come January 1st, we're going to just return it to you and we won't accept it because there are enough changes on it. We want to make sure everybody's using the same one. Paper or plastic? I mean, on paper or online? We do have some agencies that are doing both paper and the portal. If that happens as somebody comes into you and has the applications, they're like, you know, I really wanted to try the portal, but I didn't know how to use it. It's really confusing to me. And you're able to walk them through and assist them getting onboarded or getting registered and then getting into the portal to use it. I guess I get uploading the applications to be with it. That way it's just, you've provided them to us because they provided it to you. But I just want to make sure nobody's requiring people to do both because it's kind of an oxymoron. It's either one or the other. So just don't require your people to do both. Contact info. Yesterday when we were at the Casper meeting, I brought this up. I was under the impression that there were folks that were putting in contact changes more than once. But the feedback I got that nobody had mentioned to me was that when you go in and do a contact change, the first thing you're doing is creating a little note and actually making the workflow. Then you have to click the green button again and then actually do the address change. When somebody is creating the workflow and they hit submit, it's making 2 or 3 of them. Well, that's not on y'all, that's something with the system. So if you are doing an address change as HR and it creates 2 or 3 workflows, all of a sudden you have 3 edit contact buttons, let me know right away who it was that you did it on so that I can get the developers involved and hopefully they can look at logs and figure out why code is making it generate more than one time. So, transfers. When you click the Add New button in the portal, you're actually just creating a new position for that employee. So if they were at UW and they termed in 2012 and now they work for Department of Health puts in a new employee, even though it's a rehire, it's creating a new position at that agency. When we get a transfer, at least between state agencies, because there's no such thing as a transfer between a college and the state, or vice versa. If you're doing a transfer, they can't change their benefits, and it just doesn't work. You're going to put in a new employee, and our system's going to say, hey, this guy's still active, so we're going to cancel what you did. Just send us the less than 80 term transfer form for actual transfers. So there's 2 situations, and it's on another slide, but there's 2 situations where we're asking you to do paper, which is still really good percentages, because I hate to tell you how amazing it is, but in these 2 cases, don't do it. So no transfers in the system, and splits. There's literally 1 scenario out of 8 to 10 scenarios with split that actually works in the system. So for the time being, we're just going to say split is on paper. So we won't even mess with it. Split's on paper. Okay, so we're going to go, I'm just going to show you some screenshots of the employee portal. If any of you want to follow up with me after the meeting's over, we can totally do that once you have maybe an employee in front of you, because I'm taking a leap here that you know what I'm talking about, what portions of the system. So when you go into an employee's profile, there's a couple of tabs over to the right. You see their contact info, their beneficiary info, and there is a portal view tab. The reason that this tab was created, you can see it as HR and we can see it as EGI, because again, if Bob goes out there and does an open enrollment change and then calls you and says, Cindy, they didn't change my deductible. How come? You can see, as can we, that, Bob, I can see that you did an enrollment on November 27th, but it looks like it must still be in progress. You didn't submit it. So it helps explain to the employee that, because otherwise you and I are going to be blind. We can't see what clicks they did, but we can see what kind of enrollments they have in process and have submitted or canceled. Or, Bob, it looks like you did one on, October 10th, but it looks like you canceled it. So it allows us to have some feedback with the employee. It also protects the employee. So if Bob comes back and says, hey man, I can see that I did this enrollment on November 27th, I changed my deductible, and it shows submitted, why didn't group insurance change it? Well, if, gosh forbid, something goes on with cyberspace and we don't get it on our side, that protects the employee, that we can show and see, hey, developer man, how come Bob's stuff didn't come to us because we didn't get it? And that gives him the benefit of the doubt that we can say, yeah, he did it on time, and we can accept his change. So that was the reminder of what this portal view is for. And that is so tiny, I know you can't read it. The circle down there says in progress, not submitted. Once we've processed it, it does say processed by EGI. So the bottom line is, if they don't see submitted pending approval, and over to the right-hand side there's a submitted date, if those 2 things are missing or read that way, we don't have it. So that was just a reminder of that particular tab in the employee's profile as you look at it. Just wanted to talk about intervention real quick. You'll get this green button on your dashboard. Again, if you add somebody as a new employee with your agency, but we still have them covered at another agency or LTRIP or UW or something like that, it's going to give you this intervention. We see that on our side and we go, hey, looks like DFS is trying to add this new employee. So now we need to contact Casper College and find out when this guy terminated. So we term them and then push through your new employee's position, and then they can use the portal to enroll online. So what we've added to, when a person logs into the system and they click the button that says modify benefits, they're going to start an actual enrollment. What's happening is we have employees who haven't left, the agency hasn't provided us a termination. The employee goes in there, they're like, hey, I work at LTRIP now, so I'm going to enroll in the new portal. But we haven't termed them yet at the other agency. When they do this, there's a red message there that says EGI shows you are either currently or will be enrolled in benefits through administration and information. If this is incorrect, please contact your HR. The hope is, one, it's red, which means danger, that they'll read it and go, oh, it doesn't show them at DFS yet. I'll call HR and find out what's going on. Anybody that you have that's a brand new employee and they're enrolling, they should be getting initial enrollment. If they get change, they need to stop. I mean, it happens, and we can figure it out. But just wanted to make sure you knew that, one, we put that big red message there, and that any new hire that you're counseling to use the portal, they need to see initial enrollment. So kind of step through this new snazzy piece that's available for open enrollment this year. So here's a member's profile. So we're all employees now. I'm going to click Modify Benefits at the bottom of the page, at the bottom of my profile. And this brings me to my actual Modify Benefit History page, grid page. It shows all enrollments I've done in the past, anything that's in progress. So what I want to show you, and I'll break these 3 sections down, is that there at the top is actual benefits. And you can see to the right-hand side, I think you can see, there's a blue button over to the right. The next section is for documents, uploads, and there's a button to the right. The very bottom is annual flex election, and there is no button. So we've moved flex enrollment changes, or not changes, annual flex enrollment to this page. The button's only visible 10/1 through 11/30. So the section is visible, but the button will disappear and come back as it's appropriate to enroll. So let's go. There's that FYI split, paper applications only. So I've zoomed this in for you so that you can see. I can get you guys this presentation because I thought it would be bigger on the screen. What we've done, first of all, the verbiage that's on this, and I also don't have a clicker. Right underneath the word benefits, you can see verbiage real small. That reads with what you see on the screen. Click the Modify Benefit button to make changes to your benefits. This button is not available if another change is in progress or awaiting approval. Of course, we don't want someone to change their deductible. We haven't pushed it through, and they're just going to do enrollment on top of enrollment. So they can't have anything in progress. A process that is in progress can be canceled by clicking the cancel button for that process in the grid. On the right-hand side of the screen, if it's not been submitted, there's a big red cancel button. So that's the benefits screen. The red circle that I've provided there, the change and improvement we made for this year is, if I get an enrollment, if I do an enrollment to add my spouse, but I don't have the marriage certificate, is my example. I'll go in, I'll add him to the portal, I'll change my tier levels, I'll hit submit. When group insurance gets it, we're going to go, oh, Betty wants to add her spouse, but she didn't provide us the marriage certificate. So we're going to send her a missing documentation letter. Well, in the meantime, she goes back in to check on it, and it says processed by EGI. Well, her husband's not on the plan. What's the deal? And we've gotten people last year. We had somebody who applied for long-term disability, and she did it 3 times because she was super excited and using the portal and tech savvy. She'd go in there, see we processed it, and thought, and I get it. She'd be like, well, maybe I did something wrong. So she applied for it again. Well, it takes a couple days for the mail to get the letter to her house. And so we sent her another letter. And then she did it the 3rd time. So we called her and said, you can't enroll in long-term disability online. We did send you a letter. So what will happen now is, if the person uses the portal and there's an issue and we generate a letter out of the system for portal people that have enrolled, in the red, there's a message there. That's a message column that tells them letter sent to member, and it tells them to see their dashboard and the documents tab. So they can go see the letter immediately that we've sent out to them. There's also a green button here that says, I can't read it, view notes. So when we're doing something, we can throw in a free text note that might say, cannot drop pre-tax, or denied LTD, so that they can also read any kind of notes that we put out there. So that message is on the benefits of the main Modify Benefit screen. So if you go back as an employee to your dashboard, you only have 2 pages, basically, your main profile dashboard and then the Modify Benefit screen. If you go back to your profile, there's all those tabs to the right. If you click on Documents, in this case, I have a bunch, I was using mine, there's a bunch of flex claims here that I've uploaded. But this red circle here, you can't see it very well. There's a document name. It says Correspondence Denied Drop, because the exercise I was using to come up with this was I was dropping somebody and I was pre-tax. As soon as you click on there's a little icon over to the left. You can see a little paper icon. If you click on that, boom, the letter opens. So they can immediately see what it is that we've sent out to them. So that's the benefits, the top section of your Modify screen. The next one is the document upload, and this here just shows you what the verbiage says. It's super tiny. Click on the Send Documentation button to upload documents after submitting an enrollment to provide other documentation. This button is not visible if another upload is in progress. An upload that is in progress can be canceled by hitting the cancel button. The reason this documentation upload is available separately from the enrollment is just like my scenario. I went in to add my spouse, but I didn't have the marriage certificate. Well, I did that 2 days ago. I found it in my office at the house, so I take it back in, scan it. Now I can simply upload just the doc. Don't do another enrollment because it's already been done. We were just missing the documentation. So this is meant to be just a document upload. And then, of course, the third bottom section of that modify benefit screen is the annual enrollment. So what we've done next week, I think Monday is the 1st, so next week is open enrollment. There will be 3 videos on the portal page. I mean, on the portal page, you've got the link, and you've got some PDF instructions that shows you how to register. I think it just shows you how a new hire initial would do it, just kind of shows you screenshots to go along with. But there will be 3 videos out there that are screen capture. So it's actually me showing an employee how to register. They're watching the mouse move, 1 for open enrollment and then 1 for flex. Because, let's see, annual flex elections available October 1st through November 30th for next year's election, January 1st. Please use this only if you're making flex elections for the next year. If you're going to be taking flex for next year and dropping vision and changing your deductible, when you use the actual enrollments at the top under benefits, you can change every single benefit. So just understanding that 1 is for everything, and this bottom one is I haven't touched my benefits since 2011. So all I do every year is my flex election. Well, I don't want to go through all those stinking pages when all I want to do is touch the flex. So this flex change or flex enrollment for next year is just like a 1 screenshot, submit, done. So just know that that's what those 3 sections are on the main modify page. So I wanted to give you some portal stats because last year was our first year. I mean, we had some pilot agencies that were using it summer last year, but when we really launched it for open enrollment last year, this is the results that we got. So during open enrollment in 17, our portal was accessed on average 191 times per day in October and 169 times per day in November. So that's pretty good use. And that counts you and me and all the employees, but you only get counted 1 time per day, so it's not like it's inflated or anything incorrectly. Our paper scanning was decreased by 13% when you compare open enrollment in 17 to open enrollment in 16. And the amount of people that used the portal specifically for open enrollment was approximately 30% of our enrollment. So 70% paper, 30% portal, which is a pretty good use of the system for very first go live year. So I don't know whether it'll go up 10% per year or more, but we expect with each year as people become more familiar with it, that should go up. We'll always get paper and we'll never turn it away. But this is much quicker, much faster. There's no, did HR get it? Did EGI get it? I mean, it's just like it's in the system. So I did add some additional information here on the right. You can see some interesting stats January through July. We still got 4,217 documents of paper that came in the office that all have to be individually scanned. So even with the portal, we do still process a lot of paper. Flex claims, 1,300 were done on paper and 394. These are averages per month, not like through the whole scope of things. This is average per month. So 392 people per month are uploading their flex claims to the system, and all of that should increase as time goes on. Down here below, you can see some other interesting facts. We do 547 average terminations in our system every month, and 181 average retiree enrollments are processed. That's us processing them, but our new system allows us so many more capabilities between call logs that we can monitor and log what people are calling and we're telling them. The fact that we have the portal available, we can process things much more efficiently than we did before and find the information because it's all housed in one big system. So we're loving it. Again, there will be portal tutorials out there, 3 of them, 1 for how to register, 1 on how to do open enrollment, and 1 on how to do your annual flex election. There's a short video. I think the open enrollment one is 8 minutes, but it really is me. It's a lot of pages to make sure you explain to an employee what to click and where to go and what to do and why. So those will be out there next week. Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of '96. Keeping this information private is a constant concern for group insurance. I mean, it's one of the main reasons why we're locked down. You're not supposed to go past the counter without signing in or being escorted. You and I all have contact and have access to information that is all personal and private in everything that we do. but the seriousness of it and making sure that we're cognitive of people not being able to see information that they don't need to have access to, using minimal information necessary. Just want to be able to revisit the fact that just because you don't typically have a ton of health insurance information as far as the group insurance benefits, it's all still private, and we have to make sure that we definitely keep it safe. So this was just some glossary terms for you to keep in mind. Protected health information is the one that you hear the most about, and that's actually the information you see above. Individually identified health information is protected health information. So knowing my address, knowing my name, knowing what deductible I have, anything that can identify me as me in conjunction with health insurance is private and protected. So whether it's verbal, written, electronic, it's all private. So who's covered with the HIPAA? Health plans, business associates, healthcare providers, anything that's required for the business function of making payments on your behalf, sending eligibility files to Cigna and Delta and VSP, all the information that's required to make sure that you have insurance, your bills get paid, and you get the coverage that the plan outlines is all subject to protected information. Privacy versus security, just again, quick definition. Privacy is who has access, who's authorized to your information, and how we are allowed to use it, what your rights are, what the plan's rights are. And then security is how are we going to guarantee that that information is kept safe and what we deem as private is actually upheld. So privacy versus security. I think if I hit the button again, it'll go black. So please, if you have, are there any questions with what I've covered that you want to talk about as a group today, or? Jeez. Yes, ma'am. The question is, can we add a tab to the portal that includes members, employees' ID numbers, the Cigna ID number? We've looked at that a little bit. I'll follow up with Pam and Ralph. You're giving it to them because they don't have it? Well, the problem with the Cigna ID number is that there's just the logistics and the timing of it. If it's already in our system, they should for sure have a card. Not sure why we wouldn't. That tab right now has lots of different ID numbers on it, just not just the Cigna number. I'll check and get back to you and see if that's something that we can add, and if not, why. Okay. Yep. All right. Well, I'll give it to Ralph. If you guys have any questions that you think about later, or you just want to talk about with me directly, give me a call after we're done, or shoot me an email, because it's not a cliche, it's the truth. We want to make sure we're doing right by you because you're doing so much for us. We want to make sure that we're providing you with what you need and doing things that work with you. And if you have difficulties with what you're processing on our behalf, let's talk about it and see if there's something we can do to help improve the process, or even just hear what's going on with your agency or what issues you may have. So give me a call if you need something.
Thank you, Karen. This is going to be fairly abbreviated because Karen stole a lot of my thunder here. So, but this is the presentation we've put together to go around the state with and notify, let these employees know what's happening during this open enrollment. There's an agenda associated with it. So we'll talk about healthcare reform. It's still out there. Enrollment levels, actuarial review and rates, the open enrollment, Cigna activities, and also talk about the employee portal, trying to get that word out. So healthcare reform, the ACA is still the law of the land. There are still requirements of employers and employees. And to the end of this year, remember, those employees still have to have coverage or they're penalized. Employers are still required to do 1095-C reporting. So at the end of this year, those once again must be sent out. Of course, for the state auditor's office handles that, but individual entities such as LCCC or University of Wyoming, they're responsible for sending out their own 1095-Cs. Still a requirement out there. We are still required to send out the notifications about the healthcare marketplace. The feds have really made employers the advertising agency for this particular product. So there are forms associated with that. We need to go out there. and provide that to new employees and on an annual basis to existing employees. That can be done electronically. Our plan is considered to be affordable under the ACA, and of course you can't take the employer contribution that you get for the state's coverage and go buy anything from the healthcare exchange. If you want more information, go out to healthcare.gov. If you need to go to sleep, that's a good place to go. These are the enrollment levels by entity. The state employees are actually less than half, only 45% of the total. Community college is 9.6. Retirees actually grew this year. We had a slew of individuals retire and take up coverage under the state's plan, so they have actually grown to 18% of the enrollment. Natrona is 11.4%, UW 14.9%. Most of the employees continue to enroll in the lowest deductible option, although this has been shrinking. We've been trying to educate folks because, let's face it, a lot of people are risk adverse, right? They're afraid of a deductible that's higher than the $500. But how many people are enrolled in that low deductible option and they've never hit their deductible? Or they only hit it once every 5 years? If that's the case, a lot of these people are paying too much for their insurance. They could be saving some money by taking a look at one of the other deductible options. Of course, the $900 deductible, about 25%, $2,000 deductible, 11%, and 4.7% for the $1,500 high deductible health plan. So those higher deductibles have been growing, but slowly. These are the core benefits we offer: life, dental, health, disease management, wellness screening, otherwise known as the Wyoming Health Fairs or the Vampire Squad, whichever way you want to look at it. One of the best values in healthcare. People should take advantage of it. Please get the word out when they're in your area so that we can get more people utilizing that. Of course, we have the managed drug program and the flexible benefit plan. We have some voluntary products, short-term disability. That's a great benefit for who? The brand new employee, because when they come to work for us, they have no sick leave and no annual leave, right? So that's a great benefit, income replacement in case something happens to them. Long-term disability is income replacement if you're sick or injured longer than 6 months. That's a good benefit for somebody like me. I've been with the state for a long time. I get a lot of sick and annual leave. But long-term, I've been in this business long enough to know that people do get injured or sick, and they're out for a very long time, if they even come back at all. So long-term disability is a good benefit for income replacement in that situation. Vision. Anybody who wears these understands what that's all about, correct? Great benefit to have, or if you use those little plastic things that don't show up. Long-term care. This is for individuals who become totally disabled, cannot take care of themselves, and they need some help. So nursing home care or even some in-home care. It's a great benefit. I used to be enrolled in it. I made a mistake. Even plan managers don't make transitions like they should and lose the benefit. But I took this benefit because if something were to happen to me, I didn't want to rely upon my kids to take care of me. Besides, they might just knock me off and bury me in the backyard. Professional help is better in some cases, correct? Hearing aids. The medical plan does not pay for hearing aids. Most medical plans do not. However, we have two options to get discounts on hearing aids. First one's True Hearing. If somebody's enrolled in VSP, they have access for them and their extended family to get discounts to purchase hearing aids. I do know of a member whose father utilized this benefit and saved about half on the hearing aids, so it was very significant. Cigna also has a discount program that's available on the Cigna.com, mycigna.com website, that allows for discount programs for hearing aids. On an annual basis, we do an actuarial review. Actuaries are glorified crystal ball people who are very good with math. And they look out and they say, what's going on right now and what's going to happen next year? They're professionals. This is what they're telling us. Basically, the trends for medical care are 6.5%. Prescription drug coverage is 9%. A good example of that is I was on the news, and just a couple of weeks ago, I saw that one of the prescription manufacturers who provide an antibiotic for lower intestinal tract infections, UTIs, basically increase their price 400%. And when questioned on this, they said they had a moral obligation to raise the price. A moral obligation to their bottom line is what their moral obligation was, and their investors. So the composite trend is 7%. Preventive and optional dental, we're figuring about a 3.5% trend. So this year, and we're not done with the year, we're expecting $295 million in medical claims. Next year, we're expecting $316 million. As I tell everybody, I expect increase in medical claims every single year. Dental claims going up slightly. This is what the history looks like. If you go back to 1999, we had about $38 million in medical paid claims. Well, folks, next year we're looking at $316 million. So over the course of how many years? 20? We've had about a 9-fold increase in our costs in medical care. Now, we're not 9 times larger. We're not covering 9 times the number of people. We're not 9 times older. In fact, our average age is almost exactly the same today as it was then. It means the unit cost for our medical care has gone up basically that much. This is what it looks like on a graph basis. This is why I'm so popular with the Appropriations Committee. The red line basically shows you that, remember, we had 3 years where we kept the rates the same, and last year we had 11.1% increase. We've been drawing down our reserves, our cash balances. We're anticipating that if we don't increase our rates this next year, we will continue to draw down that cash balance. At this point in time, we're anticipating no rate increase. Even with that said, we're waiting for our official word from the governor's office. So, what you had this year, right now looks like what you'll have next year for active, retirees under age 65, retirees over age 65. Same rates. Same rates for dental. Same rates for life for both active and retirees. That's what we know at this point in time. Benefit changes. For actives, nothing. But for retirees, if you're over age 65 or your spouse is over age 65, they have a different prescription drug plan. It's considered to be a Medicare Part D plan. It mirrors what happens with the actives, but it's a little bit different. Now, the current company, MedGeneration RX, is getting out of the business of that particular line. So MedImpact is forming their own company called Vibrant RX, which is going to take over that particular benefit effective January 1st. So there'll be a new look and feel. The Vibrant RX will take over. Again, it's the same basic plan, just a different company handling it. There's a timeline because there's going to be additional information sent to those retirees during this open enrollment period. So that'll start very soon in October. In prior years, they only received an annual notice of changes, but now they're going to receive a termination of their current plan, which will probably panic a few of them, and they will receive a pre-enrollment kit for 2019, which is going to be automatic, a welcome kit for 2019, and a new ID card before the end of the year. So that is a change. We'll be notifying those folks. It'll move forward. There'll be contact information directly with the Vibrant RX on this particular change. We anticipate it to go very smoothly. Open enrollment for actives. Well, this is everybody's opportunity to do those things that Karen mentioned. You get to change your deductible. You get to add dependents who aren't currently covered under the plan. So a whole host of things that can be done during this time frame. And of course, the effective date is January 1st. Runs between October 1st and November 30th. If we receive an application after November 30th, sorry, got to wait till next year. So my advice to everybody out there is, if you're thinking about, do it now. Don't procrastinate, because if you procrastinate, you might not get that benefit, you'll forget. At least I do. Remember, supporting documentation is required if you're adding a new dependent. We don't take people's word these days, do we? Because we have found spouses who weren't really spouses and dependent children who weren't really, shall we say, owned by the employee. So that will be required, though it can be turned in at a slightly later date. Cigna activities. Well, some of you have probably experienced some of the activities by Cigna. Anybody remember a notice that went out saying that our local hospital group, the physician group here in town, was canceling? Cigna's been working over the past 3 years on renegotiating their contracts, and let's just say some of the physician groups weren't taking it seriously until they received a cancellation notice. That did start a flurry of activity, and we're pleased to note that the local physician group that's tied to the hospital has renegotiated that contract. They're continuing to be participating, and over the course of 3 years, their rates are actually going to come down. That's good news for us. Also, we've had a non-participating group of ER physicians, correct? A hospital's participating, but the ER group is a hired group of physicians by the hospital. They are not directly hired by the hospital, and they were non-participating. A lot of people got caught in that trap because they charge way more than our maximum allowable cost. There was a lot of balance billing issues. But fortunately, we were able to get them to the negotiating table, and effective 7/15, they became participating. So we're no longer going to see those balance billing issues. Premier Bone and Joint. They do a lot of work. Of course, primarily they're in Laramie, but they have presence all over the state, multiple locations. Another group that basically went out there and wasn't willing to negotiate on a good faith basis. Recently, a notice of termination went out in 60 days. They did come to the negotiating table. We are really in a 6-month holding pattern. They gave us an initial discount above and beyond what they have, and over the next 6 months, they're going to be working on negotiating a final contract. So hopefully that gets renegotiated on a favorable basis. They'll continue to be participating, but there is still a possibility that particular group could go non-participating sometime next spring. Casper ER Physician Group. Much like Cheyenne, the hospital does not hire their own physicians to man the ER. There's an independent group of physicians. They are also non-participating, and our agencies and employers in Casper region are feeling the impact of that. There are a lot of balance billing issues and people being taken to collections because of the balance billing. Fortunately now, I actually personally had a conversation with the hospital CEO and CFO in August. Cigna continues to work with them. They are coming to the negotiating table. The physician group has hired a consultant to help them evaluate a business case on becoming participating with Cigna, and they are participating with Blue Cross Blue Shield. We just can't quite understand why they won't participate with Cigna. But those negotiations are happening. Hopefully that comes in and helps our members in the Casper region. So they are actively working to renegotiate this contract. Why? Because we have to control our costs. Remember that graph that went way up? We have to flatten that out somehow. We've got to control these costs because we cannot maintain that increased cost year after year after year after year. Qualifying events. There are opportunities where individuals, if they do certain things, can make changes mid-plan year. Of course, you know what they are. Karen went through them. Marriage. You can add a spouse or dependent children. Divorce. They have to come off, which is in the next slide. But those are opportunities for people to come out that. I'll be going through that with the employees as I go around the state. And I'm going to re-emphasize divorce because we've had too many instances where employees have failed to notify us that they were divorced 3 years ago or longer or 6 months ago. They can't be on there. And let's put it this way. A court in a divorce decree cannot force the state to keep that spouse on our program. They might force the employee to continue coverage for an ex-spouse and dependent children, well, the ex-spouse, but they would have to buy something through the exchange. They are not on our program because they do not meet our eligibility requirements. And intentionally keeping them on is considered fraud. We have had one individual who intentionally went to even another county, hid the fact they went to a divorce, and went to jail. So it does happen. This is a big part of our total compensation, right? We need the managers, don't we, HR folks, to remind these employees that it's just not about the salary. This is a huge part of their total compensation. What's nice about it's tax-free. Because if we were to hand you this money and say, go buy your own health insurance, Uncle Sam takes a big chunk right off the top and you lose your buying power. But we need to remind these folks that it's more than just the paycheck. Helps retain those employees. We're going to start, once again, this year, promote telehealth. Because there are instances, especially in rural Wyoming, where if I have a minor symptom that strikes me or my children, maybe late at night or on a weekend, how much access do you have to your primary care physician? In fact, if you have a cold and call your primary care physician, when can you get in there? I'll bet it's not the next day. It's usually next week. So what's your alternative? Well, first of all, you can go to an urgent care center, like across the street over here. I went to one recently just to test it out. $159. And all I got was a script. That's all I needed. But what's this good for? Minor medical problems, they're easily taken care of. Now, if I'm writhing on the ground, clutching my chest, telehealth is probably not the answer for me, is it? But if I'm a child and I have strep throat or pink eye or an ear infection or I have a skin condition as an adult that I need taken care of, an infection, telehealth can be used. Now, I've used this. It's a good service. So basically, it's electronic seeing a doctor, not face-to-face, but through some kind of device. It can be a cell phone. It can be a tablet. As long as you can see them and they can see you and you can communicate, you can do this. There's two companies. The first one's MD Life. That's one of the companies. The other one is Amwell for Cigna. What's nice about having two different companies is these are Wyoming licensed providers, but there might be more of them in a particular time frame than in one company versus the other. So on my phone, I actually have both these apps loaded on my phone. And I pick the one whichever has the most physicians online at the time. The co-pays for that during this year is $42. Remember I said I went across the street just to check it out, $159. I should have just called the telehealth and went with a $42 bill, saved me money. In 2019, Amwell's copay will be $49 and MD Live will be $45. But when you load these apps, make sure it's the MD Live for Cigna or the Amwell for Cigna app. It's a specific app for Cigna because they have reduced rates. I accidentally loaded the just Amwell and MD Live apps without the for Cigna portion on there. The rates were twice as high. So they have negotiated very favorable rates. Make sure you use those particular apps. So how to get started? You load them on your phone. You do have to do a enrollment with these doctors. Let's face it, they're providing you medical care. If you go to a new doc, they're going to ask you, what are your allergies? What's your medical history? Why do they do that? It's a safety issue. You have to do the same thing through these particular services. Then you choose a physician or say the next available one, and you can either get on right away if they're available, or they will call you back shortly. The wait time for my physician when I utilized it was 5 minutes. That's better than I get when I go to my primary care doc and I'm sitting 45 minutes when I'm on time for my office visit. Any questions about the telehealth? Again, it's a great benefit. It's not for everything, but for certain items, it can save our folks a lot of money and it's convenient. Is medical care expensive? Well, I think it is, judging by our medical costs. But the thing about it is you can choose multiple physicians for the same services, right? And prices vary significantly. What's fortunate is these days there are tools available where you can do some shopping. And Cigna's website has some of those tools. Now again, if I'm writhing on the ground clutching my chest and having a heart attack, I cannot shop for care. But there are certain procedures which are going to be forecast out into the future that you have an opportunity for that. One of them is radiology. If I need an MRI or something, why not shop for it? Get a better deal. If I'm going to get a colonoscopy, I'll shop for it. And I'm 60, so I'm supposed to have one this year, so it's actually up here. If I'm going to have a knee replacement or another surgery, why not shop for it? So first of all, there's an app for your phone. You can use that, but don't. Go on your computer because there's a whole lot of information that's much easier to see on your computer. So here's Cigna's website. In the red you see find providers. It says, let's see. Find providers and costs. You click in that area, you find provider and costs, and I typed in hysterectomy because I know there's enough surgeries performed in that particular area, I can get some results back. And when I entered that in with the standard distance, in Cheyenne, the costs vary between $25,000 and $28,000. So there's a variation in costs. But I'm thinking, I'm close by to another area, right? I'm going to slide that up to about 150 miles, and lo and behold, it went from 25,000 down to 5,000. Pretty significant difference in cost, isn't it? And not just one individual who has 5,000, multiple ones. And it just dips into Colorado. Now this is Fort Collins or Greeley, but Greeley. We're not talking Denver. Greeley's about the same size as Cheyenne, maybe a little bit larger. But the costs are 1/5 of what they are in Cheyenne. So I went out there and I said, okay, let's look at some different community areas, if you will, for the same service. And Cheyenne, we're looking at 25 to 27,000. Casper, 23,000 to 43,000. So that's pretty wide variation within the Casper area. Billings, Montana, it drops to 19,000. Salt Lake City, 12,000. And of course, when you drop into Greeley, it drops to 5,000. So does shopping make sense? Yeah, it does. Because remember, one key issue is you might not have any more out-of-pocket expense for a $100,000 procedure for a hip replacement. But if the plan pays that much more, we all pay more in what? Premium. This is what it looks like on a graph basis. The blue bar is basically the lowest cost. The red is the range within a particular area. So I did the colonoscopy. Like I said, I'm due for one, and I need one before the end of the year. And I found out here in Cheyenne it can vary on $900. So I know which one I'm going to by the end of the year. And remember, I'm in the $1,500 deductible plan. So that makes a significant change in out-of-pocket expense for me if I needed to do it on a medical basis. I also did a knee arthroscopy, and just to show you a different one, cost within Cheyenne about $5,600. And also within 150 miles of Cheyenne, it goes 14 to 10,000. So again, huge variation in costs. So we do encourage people to shop for their care where possible, check it out. There are tools available which they weren't before. Cigna has some applications to help us through our wellness journey. Let's face it, I have on my phone some apps that help me out. Runtastic is one of them. Now I have the Fitbit app so I can track steps. I'm trying to encourage myself and to do some healthy behaviors, and those tools are useful. My Cigna mobile app, what's nice about this particular one, if I'm traveling across the country, I actually have access by my phone as far as my claims, what's happening with them, have they been processed, so the history associated with them. But what I like this tool for is if I'm driving across the country and I suddenly have a medical issue and I need some help taking care of that, if you see a non-participating provider, what's the benefit level? 65%. And you could be balance billed if that amount is under what the physician charges. But if you go to a participating provider outside of the states, it's 75% benefit, and they are capped at the Cigna allowance. So it's a handy tool to have if you need care somewhere else outside of the state, right at your cell phone. If you use a smartphone, of course. I do run across occasionally somebody who has a flip phone still. Doesn't work very well on that for some reason. Coached by Cigna app, good way to help get yourself in shape, has a lot of tools within there. And not only Coached by Cigna app, they have the Cigna Wellbeing app. They do similar things, just have a different look and feel. But tools to help people through their wellness journey. Cigna has reached out, and Cigna has available to people some disease management program and some coaching programs to help individuals with medical conditions and their overall wellness. In fact, a lot of times they'll see some claims come in, it'll trigger nurses to contact those individuals and say, hey, can we help you out? Of course, when I go around the state, I have people say, Ralph, I got this call. It was on my message machine, and they say, is it legit? Or is it going to cost me anything? And I said, yes, it's legit, and it won't cost you a dime. We've had members who have taken advantage of this. Cigna went out and reached out and talked to some of them and created some videos. So people you work with, people in this program who have utilized the service and made some improvements in their lives. And we've been promoting that throughout the year, and they're on our website. And we send out emails about them. So this is Teresa's story. We also had a walking spree wellness challenge over the summer. Getting people up and moving, that's important. And in fact, that's why I now own the Fitbit watch. Tracking how much activity I have during the day, because being an office boy, chained to a desk, sometimes it's difficult to know how much I have moved during a day. We had a lot of people participate. There were drawings involved. Put a lot of miles in. In fact, we put in 307 million miles, or steps, or 145,000 miles. So that's a success, first time around. Now we're going to have another walking spree challenge that'll start on October 15th through November 30th. I encourage everybody, and I encourage all the employees across the state to participate in this. Get involved. Get up and move. It's good for us. Now the employee portal, as Karen brought up, this is a wonderful tool. One of the greatest things about it, you've seen the handwritings on some of these folks, right? Can you decipher it? To me, it's hieroglyphics. So it's nice. If they can type it in, it's a lot better. But this service has given us the ability to really help with our customer service for all our membership. It's a great tool. But we want to tell people about it, show how to enroll in it. What can they do with it? You know what they can do with it. They can make all those changes. They can check their flex balances. We want to get the word out. I'm going to show them a screenshot of our website so they know where it is, right there. It's easy. Click here. And where are the instructions for it? Over on the right-hand side. I'm not going to try to tell them how to enroll in it. I'm just going to show them where to go. Because let's face it, when I'm in front of them for my 45 minutes to an hour, they usually they can't remember by the time they get back to their office, can they? But we'll show them where they can go to get the instructions. Going to let them know the videos are out there. Because people kind of forget what the dental program's like and the health program's like. So it's not only for the new employees. We've got some existing employees who don't remember either, do we? Of course, we do provide important contact information. Now, how many people have their Cigna ID card in their wallet or purse? Kind of important, right? Because if you show up at the ER, funny thing is, they want that card. But the contact information is on that card. So wherever you are, you have that contact information. You can make a call and get a hold of customer service for Cigna. Delta Dental, same thing. On their ID card is their phone number. MedImpact's actually on the Cigna ID card. But this one I always leave up there is, here's the group insurance number in here. I have to leave this up because people are scribbling that one down. Because, of course, we don't have a card. So that's pretty much simple, my presentation to the employees. Any questions on the presentation? Okay, no questions on the presentation. Folks, you're in the front lines. You have an extremely difficult job during a very intensive time frame during open enrollment. And we thank you for the efforts out there. We are here to support your efforts. Do not hesitate to send a difficult person our way so we can handle their questions or issues. If you have a question, you're not sure about something, call us. We'll let you know. Also, a lot of the changes we make in the program come from suggestions from you. So if you have ideas on how we can do process improvement to make a better experience for our membership and for you, please don't hesitate to let us know. Some of them we can do. Some of them we might not be able to do for certain reasons. But don't hesitate about letting us know what ideas you have to help the experience. And of course, there's that little thing is, if the budget allows. Funny how that comes into play. But we thank you for your efforts. Good luck to all of us for this open enrollment. And if you have any questions, of course, we're going to be around here. If you want a one-on-one question, come down, talk to us. But thank you for coming.